Hello, everyone. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness podcast with Zenja Glass. Feel free to call me Z. I know I've been gone a while. I know I have. And I thank you all for being so patient with me. I've just been putting out a few 1-minute podcast episodes as I was busy writing my book. I am happy to announce, by the grace of God, I finally last night finished editing the very last chapter. And by the time you hear this message, my book should already be getting sent off to be proofread, just to make sure there's no, grammatical mistakes or what have you. So I'm so grateful for your patience. I cannot wait to introduce it to you all. My sincere prayer is that it tremendously helps people and change lives. And so that leads me to what I want to talk about today. This is going to be a really, really, really short podcast episode because I am creating my table of contents right now for my book, and I've got a few little tweaks I've got to do before I get it to the proofreader today. So I just wanted to do a brief episode really quickly. I want to call this Complete the Work. Complete the Work. And I don't have any scriptures or anything for you all. I'm just having a conversation with you, just a general conversation. You all are going to one day see some of the behind the scene footage of me working on this book and how much time and energy and tears and prayer that's gone into it. Even just this past weekend, I am not exaggerating when I say from about 6 or so in the morning till about maybe 10 or so at night, roughly about 16 hours. Even just this weekend, the amount of time that I had to put in prayer and meditation and reading the book and writing the book and just asking God for divine intervention. There's been so many days from morning to night that I'm pouring into writing. And if I can show you all the messages on my phone from all of the times with friends and things that I wanted to do that I just had to put on hold and say, I got to focus on completing the work. I have to complete the work that God has told me to do, because God has just really put in my spirit that now is the time that this needs to get done. Does that make sense? So I want to encourage you all to complete the work. Whatever it is that God has placed in your heart to do, put your time, energy, effort, and praying into completing what He has told you to do. Sometimes we can get so distracted by all the things that go on in life, right? Because, we all know there's things that come at us left and right. But I've found that there's nothing that can be compared with the feeling that we have when we've completed what God has told us to do, especially when it's something that's going to glorify His name or help others or position us in such a way that we can bring glory and honor to God. Does that make sense? And I know it's hard. When you all see some of the behind the scene footage, I know you all are going to talk about me, because there's days and days where I went without combing my hair. I just literally had a scarf on, right? And you're going to see me late at night at like 10 something, 11 something at night with a camera to my face, just or me being in my office really late. You're going to see a lot of footage showing really the behind the scenes that you don't know about, of the tears and the crying out to God and the prayers and all of the work that had to go into completing what He asked me to do. When the majority of the world is out there chilling and doing their own thing, like the majority of a lot of people I know are pretty much doing their own thing. Doesn't mean that they're bad people. I'm just making a point. I had to be dedicated and committed to completing the work that He set for me to do. And I know it took a long time to get this done. I know some of that was out of my control. But I'm encouraging you all to complete the work. The feeling that I have right now in my spirit, I can't even explain it. It's almost a spirit of freedom and a spirit of peace, a spirit of joy. And I said to God, I think it was Saturday, I said to Him, out of the blue, it just came out of my spirit as I was really wrapping up the last of the chapter, the last editing round of the chapter. Out of my spirit, I just said, God, it has been an honor to do this for you. It's been an honor to do this for you. And I meant that from the depth of my soul. I want you all to soar to levels that you never even imagined can happen in your lives. And I know that there are so many opportunities God has placed before you, so many things he's put in your spirit or put in your heart for you to do. And I know because many of you all have, sent me messages and whatnot, or sent me direct messages. And I know that you guys have been working on some things, and life comes along and distractions happen. But I know that many of you have not finished or completed what God has set out for you to do. And all I'm asking is please complete the work. Ask God to give you the speed, the spirit, the wisdom, the power, the energy, everything that you need to complete the work. Complete what he has asked you to do. There are so many of you that have been working on a book for a while, and I know this because you've told me. So many of you have ideas for businesses. There's so many of you where God has told you to go and do something, and you sort of put your toe in the water a little bit. And you guys know what I mean. You put your toe in the water a little bit, and you dabbed around with it a little bit, but you really didn't go all in and complete what he said. This is the time where we need to do that. This is the time where we're going to need to make the sacrifices that we need to make in our lives, commit to prayer, ask God for wisdom and guidance, and complete what he's told us to do. A good indicator to me when we're kind of off track is, I hate to say it like this, and I pray that it comes out the right way, but when I see someone that's really frustrated, completely anxious a lot about something, and just not happy, and you can just see that nothing really is kind of working out, I automatically know something's off. You some kind of way you're not walking in alignment. Because when we're walking in alignment with what God has told us to do, even though we absolutely get tired, and sometimes we do get discouraged and distractions and things come our way, but there's something in our spirit that jumps and lifts because we're walking in alignment with what he's asked us to do. I didn't spend all of this time, really years, I should say, and especially the last several months, pouring into writing and doing finishing this book because I want to make all this money from it. That actually is not what's in my spirit. I'm being very transparent with you all. Now, in the past, that would have been who I was. Let me just make that clear. If you caught me 20 years ago, first of all, this book would have been out whether I thought it was great or not. And I would have been all about how can I make a dime. But my why is what's the most important thing. My why. My why is I want to walk in obedience to you, God. That's number one. Number two, I want to help people come to know you. I want to help prevent suicides. I want people to be called out of dark places. I want people to be inspired to pursue their dreams. I want to open up my life and just appear naked before the world, just exposing things in my life to be a light to others and to help others. I want to help people who are in dark seasons to walk out of those seasons. I want to be a light and example. An example for you, God. I want to be your representation. I want to be in partnership with you. Does that make sense? That's my why. That's why I kept going at it. And you all don't know behind the scenes, sometimes it was so tough. One of the amazing women who's been working with me for a while, I got to write something about her in the book because I just cannot tell you how many times I had to go to my executive admin and literally I was just in tears. Because I didn't think I can finish the chapter I was writing because it was so deep. Or I was discouraged, because I think I told you all this, and I know I'm drifting a minute, but just follow me. I think I told you all that I didn't find out until a little bit more toward the latter part of writing the book, just before I was going to get it to the editor, that the copyright laws have changed. And so you can't just quote. And this book has a lot of scriptures, by the way. All of it was from my spirit. I didn't even realize how many scriptures was pouring out of me until the book was written. And I had to look into copyright laws, and I had no idea that you just can't quote a gazillion scriptures from the Bible. It doesn't work like that because these Bibles are all published by different publishing companies. So without going into much detail with that, I'll just say this. Imagine having hundreds of scriptures, and yes, it was a lot of scriptures. I can't believe all of that came out of my spirit. And imagine having to then go back through and having to rewrite many of them and put them in different versions so that you don't infringe on any copyrights. Does that make sense? So you can only have so many scriptures that you can quote from a certain publication, if that makes sense, without infringing on their copyright, right? So imagine having to go back and go through tons of scriptures and change it to NIV or King James or, I don't know, NASB, B, or what are some of the other versions? ESV, all of these different versions and having to chop it up. So that probably was one of the most discouraging points for me because when I thought it was done, I had to turn around and literally, you may as well say, rewrite and go through the whole Bible again because my Bible's almost 30 years old. I got that Bible as a gift when I got married. Anyway, I'm drifting. Where was I going with this? My point is, sometimes we get discouraged. Sometimes we get distracted. But it's very important that we complete the work that God has in front of us. And we know that we're walking in alignment. That's what I was talking about. We know that we're walking in alignment when there's this extra brush of air, this wind that God gives us to continue going. And there's a joy. So even in all of the distractions or discouragement, like what I just described, there still was this joy in my spirit because my why was strong. My why is, God, first of all, this is your book. What do you want me to say to your people? How can I help pull them out? How can I use my life to even help entrepreneurs and business owners and those who are dreamers? Some of all of that is up in the book, just so you know. What is it that you put into me that you want me to share with the world? How can I use my tragedies and the things I've gone through, especially the death of my son, to help someone else who just lost a loved one? My why was strong. And that's what I mean by it's fairly easy for me to be able to look at someone or look at a situation and I don't want to say make a judgment. That's the wrong word. But just sort of be concerned if they're walking in alignment. Because when we're walking in alignment, there's something in us. There's something in us that there is a skip of joy. There's a determination. And there's something that keeps us in line with what he wants us to do. And he blows on it. Does that make sense? Anyway. What am I getting at? Because I haven't talked to you all in such a long time, so I'm just talking at this point. Complete the work. Please, complete the work that God has asked you to do. Because whatever he has put into you can be a gift and a blessing to other people. I heard this minister say a couple weeks ago, because I listened to a lot of ministers and apostles, and he said it, I'm probably going to paraphrase it totally wrong, but I love what he said. And this was during a time when I felt really discouraged, when I found out I had to go back through all of those scriptures and and change it up. But this minister, he said, or this apostle, he said something to the degree of, it's really not an option for us to do what God has asked us to do. We are almost like walking in sin when we don't do what he's told us to do, because this is a part of revealing him and making him known to man. And he said something like, so many of us carry around the blessing or the instructions that God has given us as though it's optional. We can do it whenever we feel like it, or when we get around to it, or when we're in the mood for doing it. And it really shouldn't be an option. It should be a determination. I need to complete the work that God has set for me to do. And that really shook my spirit. And it was from that moment a few weeks ago up until last night that I went into hyperdrive, I guess you can say. Because I only need to hear a good message one time. And if it changes and touches my spirit, I obey. I literally went into almost like a hyper, speed. That's when you guys started hearing those 1-minute podcast episodes, by the way. And I said, I got to shut everything out. I got to complete the work. I got to do what God has told me to do, because it's not about me. It's not about me at all. It's about there are people waiting on this message. It's about there's one person out there who needs to read and hear what I have to say, because maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's going to prevent them from doing something they shouldn't do. Maybe that's the answer that's going to lead them to God. So my question to you is, are you going to complete the work that God has set out for you to do? Can you stop looking at it as optional and look at it as, this is what God has told me to do. I must complete it. I must walk in obedience. And if you're tempted to think, well, Z, that's great for you. You're writing a book to help people. Mine is, I don't know, open up a hair salon, or, I don't know, selling jewelry online or whatever it is. And everything that God has told you to do, there's an element that you can bring glory to him and that you can help other people. So don't be one-sided to just look at it like that. I believe any time that God puts in our heart to do something, there has to be a level of service to it. Now, some of us, and I'm going to end with this, some of us are probably off doing things we're not supposed to be doing. And we're walking out of alignment. And that's why we're so frustrated and not getting anywhere. And we're trying every single thing we know to do, working day and night, completely stressing ourselves out, and nothing's becoming of it, because you're just not in alignment. Just not in alignment with what he wants you to do. I've been there. That's why I'm able to say it. I've written books before. We've talked about that. Go back and listen to that podcast episode called Stop Chasing Seeds or something like that. And you'll see what I mean. When I had my butt out there writing books about relationships and other things I had no business doing, right? Walking out of alignment. It was frustrating. I didn't enjoy it. It was tiring. All I was trying to do was make some money. I wasn't happy. And when it was all said and done, nothing became of it. There was no fruit that really was produced from it. In fact, I threw all the books in the garbage when I was done writing them. Get my point? I was out of alignment. So I kind of lost my point of view at this, my thought pattern at this point, but because I'm so tired, I didn't get much rest. But I just want to say, complete the work that God has asked you to do. I love you all. I am so grateful for all of the love, the comments, the messages. Even last night, I got a message from someone, a direct message from I think it was on my Instagram page, and someone said, Z, I'm just checking on you. Haven't heard from you in a while. Just want to make sure you're okay. You guys have no idea how much that touches me. That even when I've been off for a while, you guys are there. So I love you. I love you. I love you. Everything in my heart wants you all to be happy, to be at peace, to be in partnership with the Holy Spirit, to have exploits. Remember Daniel 11:32? For the people that do know their God shall be strong and have exploits. Everything in me wants to see you prosper. Everything in me wants to see you help other people in life and glorify God. I want to see all of that. And so I'm doing my best to just share my little journey along the way with you all. And I am praying that there's something that I've said that's going to move in your spirit to bless you to make the decision. You know what? Let me buckle down and do whatever I need to do right now. Let me shut off social media. Or let me turn my phone off. Let me get a very strict schedule, right? So that I can spend time in prayer before God, walk in wisdom, and complete the work that He has told me to do. Complete the work. I love you all. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast.